joining us again. I'm Laura with Lifers. Jay's not here with us today, but I'm super excited to introduce our guest today, Katie. Katie is a member of a family who chose to donate her loved one's organs, her brother, Patrick. So Katie, can you tell me a little bit just about Patrick and about your family and kind of when this all took place for you guys?
Absolutely. So my brother Patrick, he was 16 when he passed away in 2010. He'd had chronic asthma his entire life. So that ended up being what took him in the end. He had a very severe asthma attack. But before that, he was a very, very healthy kid. He was swimming, tennis, golf. He loved to work. He was the lifeguard at the local pool. He was very loved by the community. He was involved in children's care at church. He just knew a lot of people. He was very loved, and it was a pretty hard shock when he did pass away. But what really brought our family a lot of joy was knowing that his organ donation would provide life to other families who were in need, and that he would live on in that sense. So although his lungs were damaged, he was able to donate all of the rest of his vital organs and a lot of tissue, eyes, skin as well. So I think the statistic that they gave us at the end was that they had affected about 76 lives in a positive way, which was great for us. So the organization that we went through was specifically Gift of Life Michigan. That was where he had passed away. And so they were really great. They gave us the option to correspond with the families that had received his donations, mostly for the vital organ donations. And so they started out where, we could write a letter and they would be the middleman, deliver the letter to the family, just because there can be sort of a disparity there. The family receiving the organ, while they are very thankful, they realize that someone did have to pass away for them to receive that organ. So, they were the middleman for a little bit. And then as the communication continued, specifically with one family, our heart recipient, which her name was Amanda. So at that point, Gift of Life kind of stepped out and we were able to have direct communication with her. And I will always remember the day. I believe it was about 2012, so 2 years after he had passed. We got a letter to our house from Amanda. She introduced herself and, explained that she was my brother's heart recipient. She was 25 at the time. She had been in and out of the hospital her entire life. She was born with holes in her heart. She'd gone through, I believe it was like 4 open heart surgeries, had just been through a lot. So, it was great to finally know who it was and who had been benefiting from this. And through some constant communication with her, we actually were able to go back to Michigan and meet her whole family, which was really awesome. We even met the nurse who said that she remembered carrying my brother's heart in a cooler. But probably the best part was, not only meeting her and learning about what she'd been able to continue doing in her life as a result of the transplant, but we got to listen to my brother's heartbeat, in Amanda. So that was a very unique experience and very, very special. She did end up passing away about 2 months ago now, but she received over 10 years of life from my brother's heart that she wouldn't have had otherwise. So that was a huge blessing to her family, and we're all very thankful for that.
That is awesome. So that's so great that I didn't even realize that they can give you that option where you guys are able to communicate. I love that you guys chose to do that. How was that? Was she the only, you said that you guys had like a real connection with her. Did you hear back from any of the other recipients, or was she the only one?
So we did hear back from a couple. One that I do specifically remember was there was another family that had received one of the kidneys. Their daughter was age 1 when she had received the kidney. But the correspondence it was just sort of, we are the family. We did get the transplant. We're very thankful, but it seemed like some of the communication was a little stunted after that. Like I mentioned, I think it was sort of that aspect of someone did have to pass away and not everyone's comfortable with, maybe addressing that or having a connection to the family in that way. So while we did hear back from other recipients, Amanda, like I said, was the one that we really connected with. So
yeah, that's so awesome that you guys had that connection. So you said that Patrick was 16 when he passed. How old were you at the time?
I was 14 years old at that time.
So you guys, I'm sure, were pretty, a sibling rivalry, right? But pretty close for the most part?
Definitely. We were kind of coming to that age where you sort of come out of the bickering phase and you start to actually realize that siblings can be fun. So we had a really good summer right before he passed away. We would always ride our bikes to the park and to Dairy Queen. And so we made some really good memories. And then, shortly thereafter, he did pass away. But I'm very thankful for the connection we have and memories that we do have from our childhood. And I also had two younger brothers, and he was very influential in their lives. They really, really looked up to him. And, so he really left us all with good memories, definitely.
Awesome. Can you tell me, for other siblings or other people who have recently gone through this, or just have some questions, or even, people who maybe have received and just want to kind of know from the family's perspective, that time leading up to it, when you knew that this was the choice that your family was making, that, it was evident and clear that he was no longer going to be alive and the donation process was going to start, how were you feeling? Like, what, obviously grief, but knowing that you guys were choosing donation, especially for somebody as young as you at 14, what was kind of going through your mind? How were you thinking, feeling?
Definitely. So I remember having two distinct thoughts at that time. The first being that, it is hard to lose some. And when you know that you're going to lose them, you are kind of looking for any way to hang on to them that you can, whether that be photographs or otherwise. So for us at that time, we looked at it as not only something to even hold on to, but a way to kind of push his life forward and to let him keep living, in another way. And so that, I know for myself and definitely for my parents, that's kind of how we saw it, was as an opportunity. This didn't have to be the end for him, maybe the end of our relationship with him specifically, but not the end of who he was and his positive impact. So that was the first way that we saw it. And then the second way was that we knew he was adamant about being an organ donor. My parents were very good about educating us about being organ donors. I remember being about 7 years old with him, and our parents had sent us to a workshop at one of the local universities, and the staff showed us like a human heart, a human brain. And even at the age of 7, my brother, I remember saying, when I die, I want to give my brain to science. I want to give my heart to science. So even at a young age, he knew. And to get his driver's license at 16, it wasn't even a question. He marked yes. He wanted to be an organ donor. So that's definitely something people in general can do to make that process easier. Maybe when they do lose a loved one, know that that's what they wanted. So, if we can educate people as well while they are living, so that it's not a hard choice for us when they do pass away.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, that was one of my questions too, was going to be, had you guys ever had, I think even as adults, it's really difficult for us to have those conversations at times with people. So the fact that even at such a young age, your parents were influential in having those discussions, and him being so adamant, I'm sure brought, a lot of peace with that.
Definitely.
As time has kind of gone on, is this something that your family, do you guys discuss his organ donation at all? I mean, obviously, with the heart transplant patient recipient that you guys, had that great relationship with, I'm sure it kind of came up at times with that, but how has it kind of impacted this time since this donation?
Definitely. Especially when we connected with Amanda, we felt like we named another family. I'm Greek, so, we're very, very large family oriented as it is. So for us, it just felt like we were welcoming another side of the family, our fold. And it definitely helped us, especially, after my brother did pass away. It was, I think, a way to help us grieve and to take away some of that pain. And, it was 10 years ago. So since then, my family, the kids, we've all kind of grown up and gone our separate ways. I live in South Carolina now. My parents live in Iowa. So, it is a way that we were still able to stay connected. It was always, how's Amanda doing? What's Amanda up to? So it's definitely a way that my family's been able to stay connected with each other and with her family as well. So.
That's awesome. What misconceptions have you heard about either the donation or just this whole process in general? Is there anything that you've ever heard or somebody said to you when they found out that your brother has donated?
Definitely. So some people, they think that it's like a very morbid process. A lot of people hear about like of organs and, like on the black market. And so they kind of have a negative connotation. But it's literally just a surgery, because that's, surgical procedure that's performed in a dignified manner. And then, as soon as the surgery is done, for my brother, we opted for cremation. So that's something I try to debunk for people regularly. They're not just like, carving out these organs and one any type of way. They're going to treat that with respect. I've also heard some people, for like religious reasons, like they're not quite sure where their religious beliefs might fall, with organ donation. So that's something that I think is important to be educated on. If your religion is important to you, you should also kind of know maybe what the parameters of that mean for you, in passing. I've also heard, that if you are ill, that you cannot opt to be an organ donor. But my brother was the definition of chronically ill. Obviously, it's not a universal standard, but, I feel like people cut themselves off and think, oh, I can't be an organ donor because I have this, when really that's something that doesn't disqualify them at all from being that. So like I said, even though my brother's lungs were damaged from the asthma, he was able to donate so much still. So that's a big one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. And that's something I think that, people might not necessarily understand is like, okay, I have this thing, but that's something that they should really be thinking about.
Definitely.
Obviously, his death, I'm sure, was the most difficult part in all of this. Is there anything else when you think back, like this is the hardest part for you or for your family as a unit for the donation or living citizen?
I think for my parents, they felt like they were kind of giving their son away in a sense, like they were already losing him. But I think for them, kind of the idea of giving parts of him away was a little bit hard at first, even though they knew going to a great cause, because that was their baby. So I do remember kind of seeing them go through that. But I remember, like I said, the day we got that letter from Amanda, my dad was the one that had opened it. And just the look on my parents' face, you could tell that they knew at that moment it was all worth it. And there was nothing that they were really giving away. It was an opportunity that they were giving else. So I think that was something that, even though it was hard in the moment, they saw the rewards of that. And that's why I definitely advocate that if families can communicate with the order, that they should, even if they are shy or they think that they don't want to, or that that person won't want to respond to them. If that person does decide to respond, it can be life-changing.
That is so awesome. Have you had the opportunity, or is there any groups that you're part of, or anybody who you communicate with that might be in a situation like yours or similar? How have you found support?
Definitely. So I'm in the military, so I have a lot of friends that have lost people in combat. And something that I discuss with them regularly is organ donation, because especially with military vets, they've found so many incredible ways to transform like arms and legs and hands. So I talk with them about, I've given several presentations to military audiences about the positive ways that organ transplantation is not only important, but the way that it's progressed. And you can basically transplant almost anything now. So I try to bring a lot of awareness to that community specifically, because a lot of people are unaware and they don't know that it applies to them. A lot of military members don't know that they can opt to be organ donors because they think that they belong to the government and that's an option for them. So that's been kind of the way that I've been able to find my niche, specifically where I'm able to advocate for organ donation the most. And, even like interviews like this, it is close to my heart, obviously, having gone through it and being able to affect people by sharing my story and by sharing the positives that can come from it. That's sort of where I find, my involvement in the community.
I love that. If there was one thing that you want the world to know about your brother, what would that be?
Oh man. I think it would be that he just wanted to make the world a better place with his life. He had such visions for everything he wanted to be when he grew up. And, unfortunately that was cut short, but he, even though I lost him over 10 years ago, I still feel like he was my big brother. I still see him as my big brother. And so I'll always be very thankful for that relationship that I had with him. And I'll carry him with me everywhere, and I don't mourn for him more in a sad sense. I try to be happy knowing that, I had that relationship, and I try to live my life in a way that if he could be here, he'd be excited about it. So
that's awesome. He sounds like such a great, awesome big brother. So
he definitely was.
I'm glad that you had that with him. And then my last question for you is, what does the world need to know about being an organ donor and being an organ donor's family?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing is that organ donation is easier. Everyone thinks it is. And that being an organ donation or an organ donation family is an opportunity. It's not something that everyone can do. There are aspects that disqualify a person, or if someone does pass away and you've opted not to donate the organs, it is an opportunity that is special. So you don't want to yourself miss out on that when it can be avoided, I guess is what I would say. So just get as involved as you can, be educated about it, and it is important. I forget the statistics. I did a recent presentation, but the statistics for the waiting lists are massive, and I feel like people just don't know that. And so if I feel like everyone was just more aware of how organs are needed, like even on a daily basis, I think people would make a bigger effort to be involved. So, that's why I always encourage people to just be involved.
Right. I actually heard a statistic recently that I thought was really interesting, that 90% of people think that organ donation is a great thing. Like, it's an important thing, it's an amazing thing, but only 57% of people mark that box
Definitely.
on the back of their license. So it's so interesting to see that disparity. And I hope that hearing people's stories like yours, hearing, through the pain, there can be this brightness on the other side, and this, giving of life, this hope that you guys gave to other people and that you guys got, then it sounds like, from it as well, is really an amazing thing. So
definitely.
Is there anything else before I let you go today that you would like to share?
No, I think pretty much all I've got. Like I said, Gift of Life Michigan was specifically the organization that we went through. So I guess I would just give them a plug and say, they did a great job. But I know there's lots of agencies and organizations out there that work hard every day to make sure that organ donation is highlighted and taken care of. So
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining Katie and I today. It was great to see you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next guest.
We need your help to spread support and awareness for organ transplant donation.
Please share this video and channel with your friends.
Tell someone something that you learned or heard from today's guest.
Get in touch with us if you'd like to join us as a guest.
See you next time.
Peace.